Well, today is going to be a little different of an episode. Hello, my name is Rachel, and this is an episode of Friday Night Knits. And today I thought it would be a little different by doing a knit and chat. Now, I am someone who loves to talk about knitting and crochet and yarn and patterns and designers and YouTube vlogs about knitting, crocheting, yarn, and designers. And today I wanted to add my contribution by knitting and chatting with you about the Rosie sweater. So what I will be knitting on is a Seville dress. Child, I've been working on this item for, I don't want to admit, I think it's been over 2 months. I know that I've been working on it since May. I made a decision about what to do for this knitting for olive cotton merino yarn that's been sitting in my collection for a long time, that I had this yarn parsed out for different patterns, but I finally found the right pattern. And this dress is coming along and it's living in one of my baskets in my yarn room. And so far, so good. It hasn't gotten snagged. And I thought it kind of matched. And so that was another reason why I decided to pair it together. So while I'm chatting with you about the Rosie sweater, I will be working on this garment. I am choosing not to wear any of my knitted items because, y'all, it is warm today. And I don't really like the heat. I definitely cannot wait until the wintertime comes. And I hope it is freezing. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. We're not here to talk about the weather. We are here to talk about the Rosie sweater. So let's get into it. So the Rosie sweater, which is, I'm going to read my notes, is a pattern by Lee Knit. Now, she is known for a variety of different items, but I think the one that's the most famous or the most known around the general public is the Rosie sweater. The Rosie sweater is a pattern that came out or published in August 2025. It is a pattern that calls for lace and fingering, which will give you a DK weight gauge. The gauge in itself is 21 stitches and 26 rows for 4 inches in stockinette. And the recommended needle size is 4mm and 4.5, which is a US 6 and US 7. The yardage is between 1,345 to 2,018, and it goes from double small to 5XL. So pretty size inclusive overall. And it's also available in 6 different languages. I did mine in English. A couple other things to share. It is currently on Ravelry being sold for $8.06 in US dollars. And there are currently 1,710 patterns that have either started the project, engaged in the project, finished the project, or frogged the project. What off with is about the yarn. The pattern calls for a DK weight yarn, and initially when I was going to do this, I was going to use my Ronin Alpaca Classic. I had purchased this yarn at the very beginning of my of my knitting career. I'm a teacher, so forgive me for saying that. But the very beginning of my knitting career, and I never found a project for it. I had multiple ideas I was going to cast on, but it never actually came to fruition. And so when this pattern came out, I was like, you know what, this is ideal. It's fuzzy, it's soft, it's perfect for this, and it's DK weight and it's lightweight too. So all in all, I was ready for it. I went ahead and purchased an additional skein as a contrasting color in a color gray, and I made a lovely swatch with it. And the swatch was nice, but it didn't give me that, yes, I'm ready to cast on. You know, it's sometimes when you're interacting with yarn and you start to do that yarn tasting, or heck, when you just touch it and cake it up and you're like, we're friends. We're friends for life. Let's do this. That did not happen with the Alpaca Classic. Not to say anything disparaging against it. It just didn't give me that vibe. And when you have that vibe, you know what I'm talking about. So a couple of weeks had gone by and I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. And then Lovely Knits. This is a YouTube channel that I discovered about 6 months ago. She's a wonderful producer of content in relation to like yarn reviews, pattern reviews, as well as just her overall knitting experience. She was going through a health crisis for a period of time, and she also included that in her testimonies that she was sharing on her YouTube channel. And so absolutely love her, highly recommend, and you will see this noted in the description on this particular channel. And so I was watching her YouTube channel. I was like, oh, what did she do? Oh, she did a Rosie sweater. And she did such a great job of influencing me. There's not too many people out there that can influence me to not only buy a pattern and buy the yarn all in one fell swoop. And this young woman, she was able to do that. I think there was maybe one other. No, actually not. There's always something that makes me say, no, I'm going to sit on it. But this time I got heavily influenced. I was like, I'm buying it. So my birthday was coming up and I was like, I'm going to go ahead and purchase Cardiff Cashmere as a birthday present to myself. Now, Cardiff Cashmere usually sells between, at least at the time, between $32 and $38. It just really depended on which vendor you were looking at. And fortunately, the vendor I was looking at was through Etsy. She has a yarn store in the UK, and also sells on the Etsy shop for online purchases for people like myself to buy her yarn. And so went on to the Etsy shop, purchased the yarn. I bought 10 balls thinking that that would be enough. Did I read through the pattern just to determine the exact size I was going to do? No. Why would I do that? And so purchase the yarn, it gets there and I'm just like, oh. And I realized that I just spent over $200 on this yarn, and I don't have a contrasting color. And the color I was initially think I was going to use, because I had another cashmere yarn that I bought like one ball of it, and I was like, oh, I'll just use that. It didn't really go well with the purple. So after hemming and hawing, I went online just to see, are there any yarns out there that are similar to the Cardiff Cashmere? And the Sandnes Garn kept coming up. So I was like, you know what? Wool & Company sells it. Sandnes Garn Cashmere in my box. So I purchased it. It was $27 and some change, I believe. And Wool & Company, as you know, does free shipping within the US. So I bought not one, but 2 balls of it. I had to buy the second ball, which I'll tell you about more later. So I purchased 1 ball along with some other yarn, because that's what you have to do when you're on Wool & Company. You can never just buy 1 ball of yarn. So I purchased multiple balls of yarn, one being the Sandnes Garn Cashmere. And now I'm ready. I am ready to cast on and do my thing with this pattern. Tip number 1. If you are going to be using Cardiff Cashmere for this pattern or any other pattern, I highly encourage you to use bamboo wooden needles. Do not use the lacquered because they're too smooth. Do not use steel. Do not use carbonized. Do not use any other but bamboo. That is the only way you're going to maintain your flow and your tension. Now, unless you have some really amazing grippy hands that you can do it all, then more power to you, but I couldn't. I tried and I couldn't. For color work, and this was the first time I've ever seen a color work motif chart that did not have the numbers. And I'm sure that that's a common thing. But for me, that was a part of the biggest frustration, because I had to physically go through and write in the numbers, which is not that big of a deal, but it did eat into some of the time and added to the frustration. All right, so I'm now going to measure this. It took me way too long to find this. I even found chapstick before I found the measuring tape, but then I remembered I had an extra one in my knitting case. So the pattern, let me actually look at the pattern. Because if I'm starting from the very first part of the rose motif that starts on the body, that's 12 inches. And then I would need to do, oh my gosh, my family's yelling outside. Another day. So anywho, I put the pattern down, which was not a good idea, because when I was ready to work on it again, everything that I did seemed to like go away. I was like, wait a second, I have broke for sleeves. I was ready to go to do the second part of the motif for the rest of the body, as well as pick up stitches to do the sleeve motif, but could not. So for whatever reason, I could not figure out where I left off with the pattern. And I tried and I tried and I tried. And so after like the 5th or 6th time of frogging what I did, I decided just to go with my intuition and look at the rose motif and to go from there, because the chart that you're using to finish the rose motif is not the same one that you're doing as for the increases, which makes complete sense. Nothing diabolical there. So, but I had to actually say, you know what, this is what the rose is supposed to look like. So I'm going to go with my intuition, and rather than trying to look at what the chart is telling me, because what the chart's having me do is complete opposite, and my motif was off. It just looked like a hot mess, and don't even get me started on the leaves. So after the 5th time, I got it right. So I'm trying this again. I did an hour of knitting. I with a lot of interruptions, so I only got 7 rounds of the body done. So I thought I would try on the sweater just to make sure it would go around my neck, and it goes around my neck, and I feel like I have a lot of, give to it. I'm hoping that when I go to sew on the other half of the collar, that I would still have this level of give. Because you know, sometimes when you do a sewn collar, folded over collar, sometimes it can be a little tight. So we'll see. I'm just going to take this off. Make sure I didn't drop any stitches. Pull this up. Come over here. I dropped a few stitches, not a lot, but definitely more than I thought. But I'd rather drop a few stitches than not try this on and then realize it doesn't fit as well, because that can be pretty annoying as well. So let me just fix that as well. And then I'm gonna go run a quick errand, and I'll come back to this. So I put the stitch marker back here. And I say I got a lot of interruptions. I got a lot of interruptions. It's like my family knew, like, she wants to have a little mini marathon of knitting. Let's see what we can do to distract her. And they did. They did a fantastic job. Okay, so now she is all set and ready to go. I will fix those drop stitches when I get back to that round. I'd rather not try fixing it now, because it can be a little tedious. I can easily go back and fix it when I get to that round again. Sometimes I will put like a little stitch marker to remind myself, but it's pretty evident that stitches were dropped, but I'm glad only 3 were dropped. The stitching looks very consistent, which makes me happy. I'm not seeing any rowing out. I'm not seeing any anomalies, because I definitely had a few up here where you can see that my needles accidentally snagged a part of the stitching. So I'm going to fix that. Okay. So next time. I took some time between starting the project and finishing the project, so it's not that much of a surprise, but I never have been this off before in my row gauge. My stitch gauge was still there, but my row gauge was off. You're supposed to have 32. I had 26. And I'm like, where did it go? Like, I started out on gauge and now I'm off. And so I kept trying to change my tension. I initially did a longer cord so that way it wouldn't be so bunched and it wouldn't get wrinkled. That didn't work. So I went back to the original cord I was using. I was using a 16-inch cord. And I'm like, I'm just going to knitting around with this. Was trying to do anything else is ruining my row gauge. But I could never, no matter what I did for the rest of the body, I did not get row gauge. To share with you, I couldn't read my stitches. I don't know what happened. Like, my brain was just like, no, not going to work. Couldn't read my stitches to save my life. I kept trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, what shape was being formed. Couldn't figure it out. So that was number 1. Then number 2, again, the chart not being numbered and it having all these different lines. I'm like, one of the sizes was a little off centered. And I'm like, do I start here or do I start there? Which one is it? I'm so confused. And so I sent an email, and they promptly responded back and letting me know that this is the line I was supposed to start from, which was not the one I was thinking. It was the other one. So I fixed that correction and started going again. And again, it still was not coming out the way it was supposed to. So I decided just to trust my intuition. I looked carefully at the picture and counted the number of stitches I needed for the different portions of the rose motif and the leaf motif, and I just went with it. Now, there are some parts of my sleeve rose motif under my arm that's a little off. And I accepted that. I'm like, you know what? It's under the arm. It is what it is. Not many people are going to be seeing it, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I moved over to there. Then it was time to do the second sleeve. I took a little break. As one does. I finished the motif and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to pause here just to see whatever it is I need to do, and then I'll circle back to it. Doing a late night update. I'm a little tired, but I'm just on a mission, and I'm listening to a really highly entertaining audiobook, and tomorrow I have to braid my hair, so I'm just trying to get as much
of the Rosie sweater done. I like am locked in. I refuse to pick up another pattern. I could work on my socks. My Seville dress needs to be done. Excuse me, patterns galore I need to do. But for whatever reason, this is a pattern that's calling me. So with that said, I have successfully knitted to the full length of the sleeve, and now I'm just doing the ribbing. As you can see, I did one round in stockinette, and then I did the next round in ribbing, and I'm doing twisted rib. I went 3 different needle sizes with this instead of doing a decrease. I did the first chunk of purple in 4 millimeter, and then the white is 4.5. And then I went back to 4 millimeter and until I got to that red marker. And that's when I switched to a 3.75, and I did that until the orange marker. And now I'm doing 2.75, and my goal is to stick to that. I'm going to do probably another 2 rounds for the ribbing, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the second sleeve. I'm still working on the body. I have 6 more rounds left to do on the body, and then I should be finished with it. I might do 7 just for good measure, but we'll see. Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Perfect. So I was really proud of myself. I was like feeling and motivated, like ready to take on the next task with the Rosie sweater. Oh, here we go. So the next task with the Rosie sweater was finishing the sleeves and finishing the body. And I kept alternating. After I finished the collar, I did some more stockinette rounds for the sleeve. And then I finally got to the ribbing. So I was like, let me just get it done. So I got the ribbing done. Then I switched over to the body and I did some more on the body. Then I switched over to the next sleeve, then back to the body, sleeve and body, going back and forth. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm almost there. I'm so proud of myself, right? And I realized I had one extra ball of yarn left over. And I was like, yeah, I'll just keep it or save it just in case I need it in the future. So I got the sweater all finished. Decided that I was going to sew down the collar after I wet blocked it, take it to the restroom, fill up the tub of water, and getting ready to do it. Now, mind you, I already did a gauge swatch with the purple and the white because I needed to make sure that the purple wouldn't bleed. So it's not like I didn't double check. I just want to preface that. I put the garment into the water. The water is lukewarm. I add a little bit more cold water into it just to make it even cooler. And I added the laundress wool and cashmere soap. And so I added like 3 little sprinkles to it, put that in there, give it a little shush shush, and I left it alone. It says on the bottle not to leave it in soaking for more than 30 minutes. And I decided just to keep it in there for like 18, 20 minutes because the reality is the sweater has been with me everywhere. It's been on the floor. It's been in my bed. It's been outside. It's been in my chair. It's been everywhere. So I really wanted to get some of that dirt out. So I go back to go check on it, feeling all like, I'm proud of myself. I finished the roses. It was bleeding. And I could see the purple in the water as I was pouring it out. I was like, no. And then on top of that, as I'm rinsing the soap out, because the wool and cashmere shampoo, as they call it, it is a soap and you have to rinse it out. It's not like the wool wash that you don't have to rinse out. This one you do. So I'm rinsing it out, but the soap would not come out. So I switched to a different sink in my kitchen. I cleaned the kitchen in its entirety, make sure everything is gone, no crumb, anything, nothing that's going to snag on this. And I tried rinsing it that way. And my husband's like talking to me. I was like, don't talk to me right now. I'm having a knitting crisis. And he's like, all right. And so just going ahead and kind of get all the suds out. And I finally get it out. But then I noticed there's this big clump of soap in the middle of the sweater. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. So I realized nothing with the water wasn't making it come out. So I decided to get another wool wash that I had that is a non-rinse. And I put a little bit in there just to see if that can help break it up. And if fortunately, there you go, it worked. So I got it all bunched out, got it all out, and finally get all the suds out. It took about 45 minutes for me to do the rinsing of this. I wrung it out, and fortunately, the bleeding had finally stopped when I used the second wool wash. So I don't know if it was the wool and cashmere that made it bleed or if it was just happening with the yarn. I was just relieved it was over. And now I already prepped my blocking mats. I had wiped them all down, making sure there was nothing on them. I wiped them down in a lavender web just in case there was any little critters in here. It's like, ooh, cashmere, I'm going to eat some. And so I made sure all that was good to go. I put up a whole bunch of sage around it. What else? Lavender. And there was one other, oh, and cedar. I had everything around it just to keep critters away, right? And so I'm bringing it back to my yarn room. I'm feeling a little bit calmer because I was able to rinse it out and able to get all this stuff out. And I untuck it from the towel. And as I unroll it, a moth flies out of it. I swear I can't make this up. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? A moth flew out of the towel and the sweater. So I am checking it, trying my best not to cry. Because mind you, this is a $300 project. I have spent 300 hours on it probably. And I've been dealing with so much frustration with the pattern, with the yarn, the knitting needles, time. Are you kidding me right now? So fortunately, there wasn't any indication that the moth did any damage so far. So I was able to lay it out and I dried it out. I put a little fan next to it and I went ahead and just looked around my room to see if I can find it. Could not find the little moth to save my life. So I resaged areas and re-put up like different little things that's supposed to deter these critters from touching your wool, and said a silent prayer to all the knitting gods out there in hopes that it would protect my sweater while it dried. Fast forward 2 days later, I'm like, it's done, it's dry. And I look at it, it grew massively. It is so big. So I've been talking about it so much. So it's time for you to see it. All right. I'm going to just scroll over here. Get it down. There she is. I bought these new hangers from Target that doesn't have any of the little divots that my cheaper, more plastic hangers have, and it's just regular. So as you can see already, it is very oversized. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I am done with this pattern. I have tried and I tried and I tried. So let's try it on, or I'm going to try it on and you tell me, was this a success or was this a failure? This is my first time putting this on since I took it off the blocking mat. Because when I took it off the blocking mat, guess what else was there? The moth that kept coming out. When I went to go hang it up and take a picture of it right over there, guess what was sitting on the wall? The moth. Just a few minutes ago, just saw it, but it finally flew and I was able to get it. And so hopefully it did not do any damage. But here we go. I'm going to do this slow reveal. Oh, so is this a success or a failure? I decided to do a voiceover for this section because I want this to be a positive video, not so much of a hyper criticism. And so in this particular section, I'm just highlighting for you what are the strengths and weaknesses of what this particular sweater looks like. A part of me feels like this was a huge success. I was able to make sure that the rose motif actually looks like what it's supposed to look like for the most part. The body length is where I want it to be. The sleeve length is a little bit longer, but hey, what's wrong with having longer sleeves? In addition, the fit is perfection. There is no denying the fact that it's going to be flattering to my height and to my figure. The big question I have to continue to ask myself, is this a success or failure? Do I feel like it's a failure because of the frustrations and obstacles I experienced, or something else? I'm not in love with it. I'm not in love with it. I spent all this time on this beautiful sweater and I'm not in love with it. So I'm hoping that after some time that I will feel a little different, because there were just a lot of little hijinks that occurred with this. I haven't fully sewn down the collar because I'm not 100% sure I want to keep it because now that I have extra purple, I have some leftover purple, I might go back and do that, but I actually like the little peekaboo with the white, and we'll see from there. And I'm just not a huge fan of the way it looks on this particular section here. I don't think I did a good job picking up my stitches, and I saw this recent YouTube reel about having a neater collar that I might want to try with this. So for now, I might leave it, but I'm not in love. I'm not in love. And I wanted to be. I really did. With the money spent on the yarn, and the pattern is absolutely beautiful, the finished product of it. But I don't know. I'm just not feeling as much love for it. So tell me what you think. Was this a success or a failure? Because I really love knitting, and this pattern took away some of that joy. It wasn't a price point because, again, I'm obsessed with this craft, and I will spend the money on yarn because I just love it so much. So it wasn't because of the finances, but it just genuinely, any and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Except for my needles did not break. That was the only thing. And I'm not here to complain, although it feels like this whole session has been a complaint fest. But I am here to say that if you are doing this pattern, there's some things to keep in mind. Number one, the number one thing is to do a gauge swatch. I did a gauge swatch and it came out just fine. But what I did not do as consistently as I should have was check my gauge as I was working on this. So that's number one. Number two, take diligent notes. When you are doing this pattern, this is not a pattern that is you should put down and pick back up and put down and pick back up. Even when you are doing the solid sections where it's just straight stockinette in the body. Instead, this should be a pattern that is a monogamous pattern, unless you are a super advanced, prolific knitter where you can be in the middle of chaos and you can still knit away without any distractions, because this pattern definitely requires a lot of concentration. So you will need to take really good notes. And you really, really, really should only be working on this. And then my final tip is to make sure that you love the yarn, that the yarn is as, how can I say, as exciting to interact with as a pattern. Because if you are not loving the yarn, it's going to be reflected in the knitting. And I wanted to love this yarn, and not just because it was expensive, because it is so soft and luxurious. And I really wanted to love it. And I can honestly say I'm like, all right, it's all right. It's super duper soft and beautiful. I am hoping it will grow on me. Looking at myself in the camera, it looks absolutely stunning. And so I'm going to keep looking at myself in it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to wear the heck out of it as well. But as of right now, it's not my favorite knit. It's the one I'm most proud of because it showed me endurance. It showed me that I have what it takes in order to deal with challenging moments or whatnot. And I know that you're probably like, that's lame, like your knitting teaching you that. Well, yeah, it can, because one of the things I go back to in my life, anytime I'm going through a struggle, I remind myself of a drill that we did in the military. For those of you who either did ROTC or an enlisted soldier, they always do this training for night infiltration. And before you do your night infiltration full exercise, they train you on how to do the army crawl with your ruck on and with your ruck off. And so that was a really challenging experience for me because I needed to use the restroom, and he wasn't even our drill sergeant that day. He was just one of the officers who happened to be around that day. And there was a long line for the ladies' latrine, as it always is. And he told me that I needed to get back in formation, even though I was the next one to go. And I was like, sir, may I please use the restroom? Then I can fall in formation. I just been holding it for a few hours and I just really need to go before my group goes up to do the army crawl. And he said, no, get in formation. So I got back into formation, my bladder super full, and my squad, well, no, it wasn't my squad. It was actually my platoon. We were the last one to do the exercise. And so the first three squads went ahead of us. And so we were second to last to go. And my bladder was just screaming. And I'm actually pretty good at the army crawl. There's not a lot of things I was great in the military, but that was the one thing I was like, oh, I could do this with ease. The first time I learned to do it. But that time doing it with a full bladder in the middle of the summer in Tennessee, child, ooh, I was struggling. Oh my gosh, by the time, and we were doing it on a football field, and I got to the midfield, the 50-yard, no, it was at 48. Believe me, I remember it was 48. And it was like, I don't know if I could do any more without peeing myself. And so, oh, God bless them. My squad members, who had finished ahead of me, went back and just like gave me the words of encouragement to keep going. And then a few of my squad members who hadn't made it that far yet were also cheering me on to give me that encouragement. So I finally found the perseverance to go. Members of my platoon were like, "You got this, Williams, you got this." So I was like, "Do I? I don't think so." I probably was crying at that point, but I got off, finished the army crawl, got back in formation without using the restroom on myself. And the officer who refused to let me go finally allowed me to go after I finished that. So he was so kind. So kind. Oh, whatnot. But anyway, I tell you that story because that's my go-to. Anytime I'm like trying to like, girl, if you can get through that, you can get through this. This. But for me, this knitting pattern was that for me because it was just so much second guessing and I was berating myself for not reading the pattern properly or not understanding aspects of the pattern. And I gave myself such a hard time about it. And then I was overthinking it. And this is reflective of life. We overthink things sometimes. We give ourselves a hard time when we make the wrong decision or we make mistakes or whatnot. And this is an example that it's okay to make mistakes, that in the end, this beautiful sweater came to life. This is still a beautiful sweater. It may not be exactly the way I had envisioned it, but it fits me. It's at a great length. It's not cropped. I have plenty of arm space or whatnot. If I end up gaining the weight I've lost this summer, I still got room to grow. If I don't, it's a nice oversized sweater to wear with my leggings. There's so many positive things I can say about this. I can snuggle up with it and hold it like this. So I can find the positive as well. Is it something that I'm always going to it is, let me phrase it this way. This is a sweater I'm always going to remember because I'm going to list it for you. I found the pattern to be very confusing. I just made mistake after mistake after mistake because of my own inability to lock in. I second guessed my decisions. I did not take diligent notes when I should have, even though my instincts told me to do so. I still was not taking the diligent notes I was supposed to. And then finally, a bug got in the way of my beautiful sweater coming to life, and it almost devastated me. I still can't believe a moth was in the towel, then on the blocking mat. And then when I had it hanging up, taking pictures of it, the little critter was just sitting right there. So that's it. That's all the tea I have to share with you about it. So what do you think? Are you going to do it? You're going to cast it on? You should. Misery loves company. See you on the next episode of Friday Night Knits.